Welcome to the Convo Couch, everybody. Pasta Jarduli here. We're going to get started without even do the 5-minute intro. We're just going to jump right into it. We have a special guest. He has limited time. Fiorella should be in any minute right now, coming back from the studios at RT. If you haven't checked her out, please go over to Rumble or Odyssey and go check out RT Live. Fiorella on the desk. New times, new hours. And we got a lot to talk about because it is January 6th today. And January 6th, a couple years ago, we were in D.C. on the Capitol. But a couple days before January 6th, we also had a guy who presented an idea. It was an old idea from DSA, and it was called Force the Vote. So we were also in D.C. January 3rd, January 4th, marching for Force the Vote. And what do you say? 2 years later, we finally got the Force the Vote. But unfortunately, it came from the Republicans. So let's bring on in Jimmy Dore. He is here with us today to talk about it. Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm having a good laugh. How about yourself? I'm having a really good laugh. This is fantastic. It's exactly what we said, the squad. Do you know that the last concession that is right now being talked about is one of the concessions that the right wing, the Matt Getzes, who are doing this they want $75 billion cut from the Defense Department. Isn't that what lefties are supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Isn't that so? The people that they call far right wingers are out lefting the squad. That's how easy it is to be to the left of the right wing, pro-war, pro-Wall Street, anti-worker Democrat Party. That's how easy it is. That guy like Matt Gaetz is to the left of AOC. That's amazing. Lauren Boebert to the left of the squad, and Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders never tried to get them to cut the defense, he never used his leverage to get them to do that. So it's a real, so 2 years ago, it was a mask off moment, right? When everybody saw, but not only was it a mask off moment for the squad and for the elected, or as they call them, the Democratic electives. What a weird term people say. That's so weird to say that. But that mask off moment for them, it was a mask off moment for the people who you thought were on your side in quote unquote independent media. And they're not. Turns out they weren't. Turns out that people like David Sirota and Ryan Grimm and Cenk Uygur, when it came down to it, they would gaslight you about what was, or try to muddy the waters about what was actually happening, trying to make a simple moral. Somebody had put it, I forget who said it, and I'm going to butcher it, but they try to make simple morality plays seem complicated. And that's exactly what they did. And they, Cenk Uygur, David Sirota said that Kevin McCarthy could become speaker. Now Cenk Uygur has changed, just like he did with Russiagate, completely pretended he didn't do it. Now he's saying, they just didn't have a strategy for who they wanted to replace Nancy Pelosi. The point wasn't to replace Nancy Pelosi. The point was to extract a concession for your vote as for the Speaker of the House, whoever that person was. You have the same demand. So it doesn't matter who it is. You can't elect a speaker without our vote. And so now they're still going back to that same old playbook of, oh, well, forced to vote would have been a failed vote. How would that have helped? They're just like, oh, so because that's all they have, right? Or because before it was blatant lying by saying that McCarthy would become speaker if the squad withheld their vote. Now he can't become speaker when the Republicans control. That's how big of a fucking lie that was. So now they have to switch. Just like they switched on the vaccines when they said, oh, we never said it stopped transmission or contract. We never said it stopped this. And so now they're doing the exact same thing. Oh, we never said. So, but it is amazing to watch what can be done. And, they were right about one thing. The people who were against forced to vote was that whoever did force a vote or withheld their vote for speaker would be demonized in the corporate press. And that is certainly happening to the people who are doing this right now. If you turn on the media, the news media, the corporate press, ABC, NBC, CNN, even Fox, what they're doing is demonizing these people as they're calling them terrorists now and stuff like that. It's funny to see. So because the establishment, what don't they like? Democracy. And what is this? Democracy. And of course, the establishment calls democracy terrorism. Of course they do. And of course when you go against war, they call you far right. So it's whatever is up is down, black is white. But this is a great moment. Again, the left will learn nothing from this because there is no left in the United States. Hey, where are the fucking nurses during the middle of a pandemic to cry for Medicare for all that Joe Biden could give us at a stroke of a pen? Where the fuck are they?
Yeah.
Well, what lefty organization is even talking about Medicare for all? They're not even talking about the public option, are they? That's something that Joe Biden even ran on. And so the thing that's the most disgusting to me about all of this is to watch the squad pretend like be smugly trying to insult the right wing for doing this. No, this is what you should be doing. They're embarrassing you. You should feel humiliated, but of course they don't because they're fucking psychopaths.
Well, let's analyze that because there's so many things I was putting up at the board as you were talking about this, because I think there is something positive about what Matt Gaetz is doing, right? You know, I was on the critical hour with Wilmer and Leon and Garland Nixon. And, we got a little heated yesterday when we were going back and forth. They were like, how could you say this is a positive thing? You know what I'm saying? What are they going to get out of this? What's going to happen? For me, I think the most positive thing is that we're going to see somebody within our Congress just not rubber stamp the same old. They keep on selling this. We got to get on with the business of doing business in America. I mean, you as a Congress have a 23% approval rating. I don't think we want to see the same old business. So what do you think the positive thing is about this when it comes to Matt Gaetz pulling off this stunt? Is it a stunt or is it something positive, Jimmy?
It's not a stunt because he's already extracted concessions. Just like I said, I think it's been tough to find out what their demands were and what they has already conceded. But they have already conceded concessions. And I heard that one of the concessions was that they could be one person to push a motion to unseat the speaker. I don't know if that, I know that was one of their demands. I don't know if that got, but they have gotten concessions. And in fact, I've tweeted out a headline about that. So what this is doing is what it should do is put even further pressure on people like Bernie Sanders and anyone who calls himself a progressive. Like there's supposed to be 100 members of the progressive squad in Congress. I mean, in the progressive caucus. What the fuck have they ever done? What's the point of being in it? Where are they? Where's their equivalent of pushing back against the establishment? What they're all doing is running around bragging that they're on the same page as the establishment. That's really, we're united. I think the AOC just tweeted out something like that. We're united. The Democrats are united. What the fuck? I just saw a video of her saying that. It's crazy. So the positive of that is that what people like us are being vindicated. So when we speak, we have solid ground to stand on, and they don't. And so now maybe progressives in Congress, if there was an organization besides us, like an actual organization that would pressure their politicians, their Democratic electeds in Congress, now, and they could use this as an example of how you can upset the monkey cart and the establishment and stop. That's what the squad was supposed to do. That's what the Justice Democrats were supposed to do. This exact fucking thing. They were supposed to be shutting down the wheels of government, because the wheels of government only go in the direction of corruption, more war, more cops, and more big pharma funded bullshit. So that's exactly what they were supposed to be doing. So I think it sets an example. And this has to be having some effect on the people who weren't sure about force to vote, right? Like, I'm sure there were kind of people who were semi-casual observers of what was actually happening back then. And they're like, well, I'm sure Jimmy Dore can't be right. Right. So, but that actually seems to make sense. And they all said they wanted to do this anyway. And it was in the DSA handbook in 2019. And we're asking them to do this in January of 2020. So I'm sure there were some people that were still confused about it, honestly. And this should be clearing that up for them. So I think, and it's showing how much fucking power they have. So maybe they could do this to stop war funding. Maybe they could do this this is a great thing. And of course, the corporate media is going to tell you it's a horrible thing. And of course, people like Ryan Grimm and the billionaire funded Intercept and the Young Turks and the billionaire funded Young Turks are going to tell you it's a horrible thing or it's a clown show somehow. No, this is everybody should be screaming at the top of the lungs more of this, because this is actual democracy.
I feel that way. Fam, I'm going to let you jump in really quick. I'm sorry. We'll put you on the big screen,
I was just going to say, Jimmy, one of the things I saw in one of these podcasts that they have, the leftists, or what they call themselves, the leftists, with a bunch of, these shit libs, what I call them, they were saying, well, the squad is just not politically savvy. What do you say to that? I mean, they're literally admitting that the squad is not politically savvy in order to defend their lack of forcing the vote, and in order to condemn the right doing it, because the right is doing it. And by the way, this isn't the first time. This has happened before with the Tea Party as well. So again, the right keeps showing the left like that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, even on January 6th, which, by the way, happy January 6th anniversary of this, FBI PSYOP. But even now, like the right is showing the left how to get things done. What do you say to these people that say, well, the squad just isn't politically savvy? Why would you want politically unsavvy people in Congress?
That's when someone says that the squad, the people who somehow managed to win a seat in Congress, I guess they're just dumb. Of course, that's just called apologetics for people, because if you don't say that lie, that's a lie, right? So what I say to those people, I say you're lying, because that they're more. You don't think that the squad is politically savvy? They got elected, and they're savvy enough to bullshit you into thinking they don't know what they're doing when you know what they should be doing. A fuckface YouTuber who's afraid to leave his own house, but somehow the people in Congress aren't as savvy as you. What the fuck? Of course, those guys are lying. Those people who say that are just, and they're bald-faced liars, but except they wear Amish beards now.
Let's go and play a little bit of that Ryan Grimm video. I'm going to pull that up. I showed while you guys were talking about this whole situation. Should the squad be laughing? Because Jabal Bowman is like pointing the finger, laughing. AOC has been taken to Instagram, and I think it's to play damage report. Like, a lot of people are saying that she's using it as an advantage, taking advantage of the Republicans being in disarray. I think she's doing damage report because she realizes that, they're being shown up. The Republicans are doing exactly what we asked them to do. So, yeah, I mean, your thoughts on that. And I'm going to get to this Grimm thing really quick, if we can play the clip, and I want to hear your opinions on this as well. Let me play it really quick, and we'll go from there.
She has to go to the House floor, and she has to get 218 votes.
Right.
And Republicans aren't going to vote for her. And so if she can't get 218 Democrats, then there's no speaker.
Right.
and then it kicks back to the caucus, and then it's chaos, and then a whole bunch of people can run, and then somebody will emerge. Somebody would emerge from that process, who would then also need to unify the party and say we need 218 votes to get to the House floor. So she won it in the caucus, but she has to get through the process because she needs a full-on majority of 218. So she has to go to the House floor, and she has to get 218 votes.
Right.
And Republicans aren't going to vote for her. And so if she can't get 218 Democrats, then there's no speaker.
Right.
And then it kicks back to the caucus, and then it's chaos, and then a whole bunch of people can run, and then somebody will emerge. Somebody would emerge from that process, who would then also need to unify the party and say we need 218 votes.
It would also
get to the House floor. So she won it in the caucus, but she has to get through the process because she needs a full-on majority of 218. She has to go to.
Okay. So I think the funnier clip, I wish I had it too. I can't find it anymore, but was when Brianna Joy Gray questioned him about because he gets the interviews with the squad. They almost all go to the Intercept people because they're on the take. And so they know they won't get a hard question. So she said she didn't want to do forced to vote because Kevin McCarthy could become speaker. Ryan Grimm, the DC bureau chief of the Intercept, let that lie go right past him. And when confronted about it on Brianna Joy Gray's show, he said he claimed ignorance. Oh, that didn't trigger me. That slipped past me. Even the whole fucking point of your interview, it slipped past you. These people are such bad liars, right? And so that's the clip I wish I had. I'm still looking for it. But that one right there explained that the guy before, which was David Sirota, who said that Kevin McCarthy could become speaker, and he was screaming at me saying, which one would be worse, Nancy Pelosi or Kevin McCarthy? Answer the goddamn question. And I wouldn't answer the question because that was never the question.
Yeah. It's more than likely that McCarthy will be the speaker, I think, too, as well. I think eventually they'll settle on it. I understand yesterday Gates nominated Trump. So we have that whole stunt going on. And he nominated Trump yesterday as a speaker. I mean, he went through the whole bullshit propaganda list of how things were so great and dandy, and unicorns were shit and ice cream, and we were all singing "Joy to the World" and holding hands when Donald Trump was the president. Not pointing out any of the negatives, but he did nominate him on the floor. And you did mention something, Jimmy. You said that there is room where McCarthy's probably saying we should take some money out of not McCarthy. Matt Gaetz is recommending that we take some money out of the defense budget, probably for certain lines that he, within the bill that he doesn't like. But at the end of the day, Gaetz also wants more security at the border. He wants them to address the border issue in the kind of neoconservative way, which is all the problems start at the border. It has nothing to do with our foreign policy. We're later on going to talk about Trump talking about going to the war with the cartels. So this little speech, which is just frightening because for me, it seems like manufacturing more consent for more intervention in Latin America. But he also wants, this is Gaetz, he also wants an investigation into China. So, I mean, at the end of the day, aren't there certain negatives? I mean, I know he wants things for his base and his voters, and that's cool. But what he wants sometimes, is that a factor that could be used negatively in this whole situation?
I mean, can it be used negatively? Of course it could, but that's what people do. So they don't want you to work with Matt Gaetz because you oppose him on certain things, right? And you're not. So now you're not supposed to work with him on things you agree with him on. So that's how the establishment gets you, and then they get other people who can think they're left to internalize that propaganda and repeat it. So the problem with Matt Gaetz is hey, Bernie Sanders has got I think a shittier foreign policy. Yeah, I mean, they're all politicians. Let's not forget, and let's not. They've tried. That's the point of propaganda, is to when you mention someone's name is to make you feel icky and afraid to associate yourself with that person. That's what they did to Tulsi. Let's remember why they hate Tulsi. And not because of anything she said about anything except the Syrian war. When she told the truth about the Syrian war is when they all decided to call her a right-wing crazy. And look at right now, it's the people who are trying to cut the defense budget is the right wing. So all of a sudden, free speech, being anti-war, all that stuff, they try to demonize it, make you feel like, they can slime you with that label and would make people afraid. That's the whole point of propaganda, to make people afraid to step up. And that's why people have been afraid to step up and talk about the COVID narrative. It's propaganda works very good. But now, and it takes a while for people to break through, just like it took a while for people to break through with the Iraq war, but the truth finally came out. But none of those people had to pay a price. Anyway, I'm getting lost in the weeds here, but I even forget what the question was.
No,
Well, I just want to comment on something though, Pasta, what you just said. Like, it's not about the policies Matt Gaetz is pushing, because we know that the policies Matt Gaetz is pushing are going to be for the right. But that's not the point. The point is that the right now is showing the left that they have the stronger will and they have the ability to actually push people to do what they want, whether it's the voters, whether it's people in Congress. And the left or the Democrats have zero ability to do that, zero desire to seemingly do that. So while I don't agree with the policies of Matt Gaetz, it's kind of like just shameful that we're not doing that, like the progressives aren't doing any of that. Like, I mean, at this point, it's like, well, look at the right. And that's, I guess, my next question to Jimmy. The right is better on the war in Ukraine right now. Like they're opposing this war right now in terms of the funding. They're the ones that are opposing the authoritarianism, the crackdowns on free speech. If it's not the right, it's the libertarians that are in the Republican Party. They're the ones that are actually forcing the vote. They're the ones that have a base that is motivated, strong, that actually has a say. So what does that say about where the U.S. politics is at, Jimmy, when we have a strong Republican Party and the Democratic Party that nobody wants to be a part of, that it's so pathetic and bad that even if we may agree with some things more with some of the progressives, they push us away with their just inability to do anything whatsoever.
I mean, you're exactly right. They are. They should be humiliated. I'm much more pessimistic now than I was 2 years ago. They're just. I don't. I mean, it's like I feel like George Carlin did at the end of his life. Like he didn't really pick sides or participate or root for anything. He just took a seat and watched the clown show, because it doesn't seem to be. There's no way. It seems like whatever the establishment wants, they're going to get. I mean, look what they're doing so that they can sell more liquefied natural gas to Europe. They're killing hundreds of thousands of people in Ukraine. I mean, hundreds of Ukrainians and Russians. And they're doing that for what? It's an economic war, like they all are, and for natural resources. And here we are. And it's so we want, and what's happening, son of a gun, we're selling more liquefied natural gas to Europe all of a sudden. And the fact that we can bully Europe to go along with it is just remarkable. So my point is, and they're willing to risk a nuclear war. That's how psychopathic the people who run this country are. And what I've been telling people is that, the mistake Americans make is they think propaganda happens in other countries, and they think that our government is just regular corrupt, not completely corrupted, which is what it is. It's completely corrupted, 100%. But their media is also bought by the same people who have bought the government. So they never see that reflected back to them, just like Noam Chomsky taught us in Manufacturing Consent. That idea is never reflected back to them anywhere in the media that they see. And the people who do reflect it back to them get a fucking warning label clipped to their tweets. Right? That it's propaganda or hack material or anything. So this is all, I don't really see any way out of this. They just did a controlled demolition of our economy that crushed workers for 2 years, and they still wouldn't fucking say anything. And the people who did, they called them all Nazis and white supremacists. In the meantime, they're sending $100 billion in aid, not to the United States cities to help the homeless population. They're sending it to literal white supremacists and Nazis. policies in Ukraine. It's so again, up is down, black is white, and I don't think the people will ever wake up to it. I mean, I get 15 million views a month. That's 15 million people a month that get to hear so that to me, it's like there's at least 280 million people are getting the exact opposite, and they just believe it and ingest it. And when people on the left won't stand up to the establishment, no matter where it is, whether it's the Ukraine war, whether it's COVID policies, and they just repeat it or say nothing. Right? What isn't it amazing that our friends in the YouTube community don't have one fucking thing to say about the COVID narrative, even though every day lie after lie after lie after lie. They lied so they could get people to do mandates. They said that it stopped the transmission of the virus. They said it stopped dead. Rachel Maddow's got a whole 5-minute rant of her saying it. I've got Fauci saying it repeatedly. The president said it on CNN at a town hall. They were all saying that. Now they all say they didn't say it, and still our YouTube friends are silent. They don't have one fucking thing to say about it.
I'm still hoping, though, Jimmy.
That's why I don't have any hope anymore. My hope is dwindling further. I mean, you see people like Christian Smalls and what he was able to accomplish in Staten Island against the most powerful and richest motherfuckers in the world. And he did that by what? By not listening to those people and going out and organizing with who? Trumpers and right wingers. And that's how he got it done, because it's not a left-right issue, because that's what they want you to think. It's an us against them issue. And anybody who says that, they try to make you into being a white supremacist. That's what they say about me. That's what they say about Glenn Greenwald. That's what I can't believe they can't say it about Christian Smalls, because they said it about Larry Elder. LA Times called him the gateway to the white supremacy, a black guy. So so thank God for people like Christian Smalls. That gives me hope.
Yeah. Well, they just convened again. The 12th ballot went through. McCarthy did not get it, so he will not be the speaker just yet. They're going to have to go to another vote. But here's the thing that's interesting, Jimmy. Every single time, and the Democrats are kind of putting this out front and center to brag about it, Hakeem Jeffries, every single time, has got every single Democratic vote. Do you have any thoughts on the fact that the squad keeps on going and voting for Hakeem Jeffries, who hates them? He despises them. Everything that the squad stands for, he says he's going to crush. Doesn't every single time that they go to these votes, and every single time all the Democrats, including the squad, vote for Hakeem Jeffries, doesn't that hurt them as well?
You hope it would. You would hope it would, but the people who the people are still. Where are they going to go get that message? That what you just said? Where except beside he's here, right? Where they're not going to have that message reflected back to them that they're actually fucking up. The message being told to them was that the squad did the right thing. They were good boys and girls, and they know how to play ball, so we can get things done. That sounds just like Hillary Clinton. I'm a progressive who gets things done. And they're demonizing the people who are doing this, who are mucking up the wheels of corruption, right? And how are they doing it? With democracy. And that's the thing I loved about what Matt Gaetz said the most, was he said both parties are corrupt and beholden to big money. That's what the left wing should be saying. That's what he's saying. And they should be able to come together to get money out of politics. And or at least make it illegal for fucking people in Congress to do trading. But they're not even. So again, the right wing is further left than the squad. And that's where we're stuck. So it should be bad for them. I hope it's bad for them. But we don't have a media that these people consume that is going to tell them that.
My question to you is, Jimmy, do you see, I know you said you're not hopeful, and I'm right there with you, because just even being here in Moscow and seeing just the way everything here is just so censored back home, and any sort of point of view, oh, I can't see that. I can't see what you post, or it has a warning, as you mentioned. The Twitter files from Elon Musk. What do you make of that? Because the Twitter files has been revealing a few things. However, the material isn't released in the way WikiLeaks, for example, released direct source material. The material is specifically being released to certain journalists, and it's there's lawyers in between all of this. And of course, it's Elon Musk, who has ties to the State Department, the CIA. He is, Neuralink guy. He wants to microchip people. He's not just some random guy that's just doing this for because he cares about people. What do you make of the Twitter files? And do you think that signifies, what do you think that signifies actually? That's my question.
Well, it just that's another thing that makes me lose hope, because even when the richest man in the world reveals unbelievable malfeasance in between the government and social media, the establishment media, which is owned by the billionaire class, besides Elon Musk, is able to steer the conversation. And now, when I talk to my old roommate, he'll go, "Oh no, there's nothing. There's nothing new in there. There's nothing big deal." So everybody knows that. That, I mean, that's what you get. So what do I make out of that? I make out of the Twitter files is that they should be a huge scandal, and there should be congressional hearings, and people at the FBI should be, held accountable and stuff like that. But that's never, it's never
Yeah.
good. But because the people who run Congress are the people who run the FBI, are the people who want them to be doing those things. The people, the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter, and I think he's convinced he thinks he wants free speech. I think he thinks that. But of course he doesn't. As we point out, he's in bed with them. I think it's great for COVID narrative. Now you can go, but the reason why I think the reason why we're allowed to say what we can on Twitter about COVID and the vaccines now isn't mostly because of Elon Musk's free speech championing it. It's because Pfizer stopped advertising on Twitter, and the next day you were allowed to say whatever you wanted about fucking COVID and the vaccines. I think it is getting, what the Twitter files, again, it should be a huge scandal, just like with the squad. It should be a huge scandal that they never voted as a squad. So they're not a squad. The only time they came together was to make sure funding for Israel went through. So, yeah, it should be a huge scandal. But what it means is that I think our society is irredeemable, and because there wasn't an outrage over it. And yeah, that's another great point that you make, that why not just release all this open source? Let everybody just take a look. Why just have certain journalists be able to peruse your stuff? I should have brought that up. Matt Taibbi was on my show yesterday. I'm on vacation. Aaron Mate was interviewing him. But I wish I would have did this show before that, so I would have asked him that to see what he thought about that, because that does seem a little bullshitty now. I never thought of it.
That's something we've talked about, and I had Dr. McCullough on the other day, and I said, Dr. McCullough, I don't want to, downplay a win. He came on. There's a lot of doctors that were able to get back up on Twitter, yourself included, and that's awesome. But I do think it's a little bit more flashed and further. I don't know if that little soliloquy makes sense. But what I'm saying is that why not release everything? To me, it seems very selective. It seemed, and even himself said, it's conservatives that got, suppressed, where we know some of us over here. I mean, I got taken down for talking about ivermectin on Twitter before, and spanked on Twitter for that. Fam's been taken down for talking about stuff when we were in Honduras. So I don't look at it as a left versus right issue the way it's kind of being portrayed with the snapshots, with the screenshots. Instead, I would rather see the algorithm. How is certain information limited and how some is suppressed? I think that would be very valuable for us to see the algorithms. Therefore, it's not a left versus right issue. It's a top versus down issue.
100%. Yeah. 100%. I'm with, exactly. And I wish somebody would bring that up to him.
Yeah.
And I wish, shit.
You can always get Matt back on. Matt will jump back on with you anyways when you get back.
I don't think so.
No? Well, he was on Bill Maher. Are you going to get on Bill Maher anytime soon? Has he even tried to reach out to you?
Bill Maher has seen the videos that I've done about him, and so he hates me. He doesn't even like Kyle Dunnigan, because Kyle Dunnigan does a funny impression of him, right?
A spot on impression of him. Spot on.
Okay. And so Kyle Dunnigan actually went on a vacation with him one time. They flew on a private jet together, and Bill Maher pretends he doesn't know him. So when I did Rogan last time, the time before last, I did Rogan. I think my second time. Bill Maher was the next scheduled guest. And so I'm after the show, I was in the green room, and his assistant came in, and she's like, "Oh, you're still here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm still here." She's like, "Oh, yeah." I go, "Oh, yeah. Who are you?" And she said, "Oh, I'm blah blah. I'm Bill's assistant." And I go, "Oh, is he here?" And she's like, no, he's not here yet, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard her talking on the phone, like she didn't know I could hear her. He was in the car. He was being driven there. He's in the car around the corner, waiting for me to leave.
Yeah, I know, right?
So he wouldn't. And by the way, you know what? I think that's a smart play, actually. But I think the smarter play for him is to come into Joe Rogan, to walk past me, and when I say, "Hey, Bill," for him to act like he doesn't know who the fuck I am. That's the play.
Yeah.
Right? To go, "Hi, what's your name?" I go, "I'm Jimmy Dore." He goes, "And you are?" I go, "I'm a comedian." "Oh, good for you. And do you do television?" And just keep doing that. I go, "I do a YouTube show." "Oh, YouTube. I'm about to do a YouTube show right now, Mr. Dore. Nice to meet you." That
It's
that
funny
would've
though.
been. Go ahead.
He didn't avoid you because he hates you, Jimmy. He avoided you because he knows if he starts to debate you or talk about something, he's going to lose, right?
Just
On the
yes.
merits. That's the problem, and that's what's going on. Listen, the conservative side was saying all this time, the Trumpers, why don't we get, Fauci in a room with somebody who could push back? They'll never do it. They'll surround themselves where they can't have anybody, pushing back against them. Well, a lot of the people I was involved with Defeat the Mandates, they had me on, they let me speak at their events. But when it comes to the Brazil situation, they can't debate with me. They can't talk to me about it because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they know I do. So what do? They avoid me, and I was close to getting on a lot of those shows, but now I can't get on those shows because they can't debate me on the merits. That's why. And that's why Bill Maher would avoid you, Jimmy, or not have you on his show.
Yeah, it's smart to not. I mean, he's smart to not elevate me. In a way, when I started my show, I used to I used to do videos about Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow and the Democratic Party, because that was the big awakening. Bernie Sanders was the big awakening for everybody. We had seen what 8 years of Barack Obama meant, and it meant more Ronald Reagan policies, and even Barack Obama said that himself.
Yeah.
And so we figured out, though, they wanted us to think the boogeyman was the Republican Party and the right wing, when actually, as Thomas Frank pointed out, Bill Clinton wasn't the lesser of evil to George Bush the first, because he was able to get an NAFTA pass. George Bush the first, he was able to deregulate Wall Street. They took a Democrat to do, just like it took a Democrat and a pretty boy like Barack Obama to get us to take us from 2 wars to 7, to kick 5.1 million families out of their homes while he still made sure the bankers got their bonuses, right? So Barack Obama could cage immigrant kids and deport twice as many Hispanics as Donald Trump did. And it took a pretty boy. That's why they had to get rid of Donald Trump. And that's why the Democrats aren't the lesser of two evil.
Yeah. Fam, you got anything else for Jimmy before he gets on out of here?
Yeah, well, Jimmy, I mean, you've seen the COVID revelations, you've seen the Twitter revelations. I don't know if you heard, but Russia tried to put out a truce for Christmas Day, Russian Orthodox Christmas, and Ukraine immediately just went and bombed Donetsk. And Ukraine, of course, is set to get another billions and billions of dollars of package for the Azov, for Zelensky's coke habit, for whatever that is. And meanwhile, I've seen posts about the cost of electricity and power in LA. Do you know what's going on with that? Is it really costing Americans a lot of money? Because I know Europe is suffering. I know the UK is set to actually freeze people to death because they can't afford their heating this winter, and it's very cold. But do you see that happening, the effects actually coming into the US right now, especially where you are in LA and California?
I mean, I'm the last guy to, I don't know about that. I'm the last guy to ask about the energy prices and stuff. I don't pay the bills. Steph pays the bills.
Does Brownie pay the bills?
So maybe I'll have to ask her if she's seen a spike in what's happening. But how can you not? What is the effect of sending $100 billion out of our treasury, printing it, sending it to the pockets of the military-industrial complex and the rest to international war criminals, instead of sending that money to Houston and Dallas and Los Angeles, San Francisco, Minneapolis, New York, Philadelphia, Why, you know, in Flint, Michigan, right? So what is the, and then plus we get inflation out of it, and we get nothing, and our country becomes more like Brazil. So I don't think because the people they took $5 trillion and just gave it to the richest motherfuckers in the world. It's just crazy. And without helping people, within the only country that didn't give workers their own paycheck during COVID. I really hope that there's going to be something, just like, you know, how George Floyd set off those protests. I hope something happens soon to make people wake up and start protesting this oligarchy and come together with their brothers on the right and left and rise up against this bullshit. Because there's certainly one thing we can both agree on the left and the right, and that is to get the corrupting influence of corporate money out of government. We can both agree with that. And you know, those people on the right who are doing this right now with Speaker McCarthy, I saw an article today that said that they get mostly small donor donations. And so that's the power of doing that. That just shows you even more cowardice of the squad. Like they're not supposed to even take, I don't know, maybe they take corporate money now. I don't know if they, but the whole point was they didn't. And they still fucking rolled over for the corporation anyway. Yeah. So at least it shows that the people on the right, when they don't take corporate money, at least it has an effect. So what the establishment doesn't see, they don't know what to fucking do about this, because not only are they're 20 votes short, they are for sure 5 votes short. And those 5 people, they don't give a shit if Congress doesn't convene for a whole year. That's the thing. They don't care, because they think that the Congress is doing damage. So they'd rather have the Congress, everything shut down for a whole fucking year, those 5 Republicans. So there is a real problem here. Yeah. And Kevin McCarthy has to fix it. It's not up to the 20 people holding out or the 21 holding out to fix it. It's up to Kevin McCarthy. That's your first job as speaker, is to get fucking elected.
Yeah. Yeah, and these same people were the people who were speaking out against the Ukraine war. Some of them, I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene went the McCarthy-Trump way. They suggested that. But Matt Gaetz and several others on the floor, you know, they were speaking about Ukraine. Like, how could we be sending the money over? How could we be doing this? Chip Roy is one of those guys, and Chip Roy is one of the 5. He's not going to budge. But, you know, Jimmy, we'll get you out of here. But I have to quote Burgess Meredith in the movie Grumpier Old Men's, because it was his last movie before he left, when his father said, "I wish you would do this so-and-so." And I've said before, I wish that we would coalesce around an anti-war peace movement. But Burgess Meredith's phrase was, "Well, you can wish in one hand and you can crap in the other, and tell me which one gets filled first." Meaning that I don't think it's going to happen, because the people here in America, they're asleep, Jimmy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Okay, thanks for having me. Great to see you both. Great work.
You got a show tonight, by the way?
No, we're off this Friday, but we're back. You can see all the dates. We're going to be back starting January 13th, 20th, 27th in LA. And then we go to Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, all over the place.
Thank you, Jimmy. Say hi to Steph and Brownie for us.
Yes,
okay,
say hi to Steph. Bye.
Love you, brother. Peace. The great Jimmy Dore, ladies and gentlemen. Fam?
Yes.
Your hair looks nice today. Let's play this little video from Chip Roy just to kind of show what we were talking about, and then we'll kind of roll into the other. We'll wrap this section up and we'll roll into the other sections. A lot of great stuff today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Go over to our Rumble. We got almost 75 people over there checking it out. If you're a Rockfin's premium member, please watch it over there. We got 40. We need a few more people over there, so we'll get that done. And take a look at Chip Roy. We'll get Fam's last thought on this before we get to the next section, because it is Happy January 6th Day, Fam.
FBI PSYOP Day.
Establishment people who say, "Oh, it's not an ideological purity test. This isn't about Kevin, right? This is about all of the assertions being made by Kevin's camp." When I hear assertions that says, "Oh, they gave you everything you wanted," Laura, hold on a second. What, 72 hours to read a bill? That's already the rule, and it gets waived. You know how it gets waived? Because the Rules Committee is chock full of a bunch of establishment people who say, "Oh, whatever we need to do to jam through the big spending bill that Mitch McConnell just sent to us." Look, when the leadership actually votes with the minority, votes with the Democrats to steamroll Republicans, which is the past history of our Republican leadership, then maybe we should do something different. It's not an ideological purity test. This is
Okay.
Your thoughts, fam?
Well, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's he's right. I mean, this is like that's the reality, right? I mean, they always do that with these bills. They don't read them. They do whatever they can to pass them through. I mean, that's the reality. What exactly like I don't know. I mean, what's going on right now, as we talked about with Jimmy, is the fact that even though these are Republicans and you don't have to agree with what they're pushing, and it's not like I agree with Democrats either, let's face it, they are using this opportunity to get the things they want. And they are showing, whether it's a show or not, because I do think there's an element of theater in all of this, Pasta. I do think there's an element of, oh, yes, let's put on the show to show how Democrats are losers. I do think that there's an element, but I also think it is shameful. It is shaming the progressives. It is shaming the Democrats. It is shaming the left in the United States. And it's an opportunity, maybe, if they want to take it, for people on the left to see that they're a bunch of idiots and that they haven't done crap to push people left. That was the whole point, right? Oh, we're going to push Biden left. We're going to make Biden do this. We're going to bring down the House. That was the squad's own mantra. It was, we're here to shake things up. None of that happened, clearly. And so what you're seeing is the right take over. And I think that's, it's good in terms of display, but I think it's bad in terms of there's not going to be a real opposition movement, because the real opposition movement isn't going to be on either side of the coin. The real opposition movement is going to be outside of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so where we're not creating an actual opposition movement, we're being left with, wow, well, at least Republicans are doing something, but we're not being left with like, okay, well, this is what we can do to actually oppose power. So I think there's a lesson to be learned in this. Like, yes, I'm enjoying the show. The popcorn's out. It's hilarious watching the squad fail at what they said that they were set out to do. But I also think the Republicans are also playing this out. And it's all, of course, in an effort to win the next election, which I think, I mean, the public opinion right now is more on the side of the right, and not just in the United States, but in everywhere else, even in Russia and Europe. A lot of people look at what the United States is doing and they're like, wow, the Biden administration is ridiculous. They're awful. They're worse than Republicans. That's the general sentiment right now of people like from the outside looking in. Like, Democrats are the party of war. Democrats aren't doing anything for the working people. Democrats can't even create a cohesive voting base that will move their representatives in any way, shape, or form. It's all the right opposing the war. It's all the right doing this and that. And we know, of course, that it's only because it's these issues right now. We know that the China is on the back burner. We know Latin America is on the back burner when it comes to the right, but we know it's there. So, that aside, the tactics and the strategy being used are what is shameful for the Democratic Party.
I think we should put this. I want to put this tweet up one more time because, you know, what does Gates want? I framed my question in a wrong way to Jimmy, and I said, yeah, he doesn't. And this is something that Dr. Wilmer asked me and Garland Nixon when I was on their show yesterday, and I was saying this is a positive thing. They're not going to rubber stamp, you know, just what Congress wants, put the next guy in. They're not going to bend the knee. This is what we wanted the squad to do. Yeah, we were asking for them to exchange their vote for a vote on the floor for Medicare for all. And at that time, we didn't even know exactly what that Medicare for all would look like, right? You know, it could be certain things, whatever. But at the end of the day, we wanted something different. We wanted a small grassroots group of people within our Congress to no longer bend the knee to power and say enough is enough. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it was to big pharma. Yeah. It was to big pharma and to lobbyists, right? Because that was before COVID. But by the way, just on that point, it was healthcare, universal healthcare that literally like 98% of the world gives to their people, including Russia. It was like basic things that a third world country, a country ruled by a brutal dictator like Vladimir Putin is giving to their country. It wasn't anything radical, honestly. And it might be radical to people in the United States who see, oh, wow, our government controlling our healthcare is bad because, you know, post-COVID, blah, blah, blah. Look, I totally get that. But like before COVID, right, before all of this stuff came up and before all of that, it still is something that most of the world has, and some countries that have it didn't force people to get jabbed, and some countries that haven't didn't like, have these vaccine mandates anyway. So the whole point is, it wasn't anything radical. So it was something that could have been attained. It was something that was tangible. It was something that could have been could have been grasped. It wasn't just, oh, like, we don't want her as speaker. It was like, we're gonna use this moment to get something we want. It was like, we're gonna get these concessions that we could get. Nancy Pelosi in 88, 89, 90, one of these, like, very early on, she talked about universal health care. She's been talking about universal health care her whole entire career. So it wasn't anything like extraordinary. And they wouldn't do that. And they wouldn't do that because they were never meant out to go out to do that. So that's anybody supporting these politicians right now is a complete and total moron. Because I'm done not giving the United States, the people of the United States, overall, people are propagandized. And I understand that. Overall, as Jimmy said, even with the millions of views he gets, people still aren't getting the message, because all these other channels on CNN, and they control the media, they control the technology. We've seen what the Twitter files has revealed, things we already knew, but I mean, now it's fully out there. In spite of that, right? We know all of this. So yes, the propaganda is strong. However, this is an age where you can go and you can get a VPN. You can go and do your own research. Why aren't the American people doing their own research? Why are they so okay with literally just accepting what they're told and not actually thinking for themselves? And it's this programming that you have to, like, you've gone through and you have to deprogram. They programmed you to hate Russia. They programmed you to hate each other, literally, to go at each other. They programmed you to hate people from other countries as the number one reason why your life is miserable, even though we know the number one reason your life is miserable is because of these politicians at the top and because of the way they exploit people. NAFTA, the TPP, took out your jobs and put them in other countries, in mostly Southeast Asia, where they can pay people nothing to do what the manufacturing that they won't pay a union worker to do. It's as simple as that. But of course, it's easier for people to hate these people, these immigrants. It's easier for people to say, oh, well, it's X other person. And so you've been so programmed in this way. And honestly, the only way to deprogram yourself is to really do your own research. But that's also been vilified as, oh, you do your own research, you must be a tinfoil right-wing, blah, 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 blah. Like, no, it's actually a good thing to do your own research in an area where you doing that and thinking for yourself and actually having the cognitive ability to not just be spoon-fed all this information is like some sort of, miracle. But the whole point of me saying that was that it's just the things that people were asking at that point with Force the Vote were nothing. It was just the basic things that people wanted. And even
Can I
if you
say
didn't
something
agree
about
with
that
it,
real quick? Because I just want to say that they didn't even have to wait and keep doing what Matt Gaetz and his crew are doing, which they're going on their 12th ballot right now. This is the 12th time. They could have just stood as a group twice, 2 times. And on the third time say, okay, we didn't want to stop this process. We understand there was going to be no movement. We gave it a shot. Let's go on. They could have done that at the very least and still made a point and would have had so much more support than they have today because of that moment right there, in which they didn't do that, which they refused to do that, and now they're doing the same thing then. They're doing the same thing now that they did back then, completely supporting Hakeem Jeffries, the establishment choice, the pro freaking APAC dude, 100%, not even moving away from him. I mean, it's just mind boggling. And to see them now acting like, oh, the Republicans are in disarray. The Democrats are together. We had all this legislation. I can't stand that the second in command now to Hakeem Jeffries in the House is Ted Lieu. He won't shut up about all these accomplishments, all these bullshit rubber stamp accomplishments that mean nothing.
But you know what their problem is, Pasta? The Democrats' problem is they still think that the unity narrative is working. It's not. You know what the narrative that's winning right now is a disunity narrative. People don't want a whole bullshit like, oh, the unity narrative. We're all united behind our number one chosen person. That was like what the Hillary Clinton contingent wanted years ago, 6 years ago. That doesn't work. It's boring. Nobody wants that anymore. This is why Trump won. This is why the right is winning right now in the United States, because they're at least showing some sort of like, okay, well, we're gonna think this, and we're gonna stick to it. We're gonna be pro-gun, we're gonna be anti-immigrant, we're gonna be this and that, and we're gonna stick to our guns, and we're gonna take a position, and we're gonna fully tell you what we're doing. Whereas the liberals virtue signal their way into this whole agenda of caring for people, and they clearly don't, because their actions don't match their stupid salad rhetoric, and so it just seems far more disingenuous than somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene being like, yeah, I love guns and I hate, the liberals and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, oh, and by the way, we shouldn't be giving money to Ukraine. Okay, well, hey, if I'm a regular American voter and I don't know much and I see those two, what am I going to do? I'm going to go and be like, well, the Republicans are at least doing something more than trying to sell money to this cocaine addict, Zelensky. And so what you're seeing here is there's not really much of a debate of ideas as much as there is a I'd rather choose this guy than this guy. It's the same continuation of the lesser of evils, but in this case, you could make the argument that the Republican Party is a lesser of evils at this very moment, and that is just the reality that we're in. And honestly, I have no horse in this race because I despise the liberals, and I don't agree with any of the Republicans either. Really, on a few things here and there, I'll agree with each side.
Ukraine,
but overall,
we agree on Ukraine. Yeah, I
but
mean,
not
that's a
all
big
of them,
one,
because
though.
you got Mitch McConnell, you got Lindsey Graham wanting to kill Putin. But that position in the Republican Party, they're at least opposing the people in charge. The squad is not opposing anything. They're united with the establishment, and nobody wants to be united with the establishment right now. And I think the American public is learning that. And so this is why you're seeing these crackdowns. This is why you're seeing them be extremely desperate. But they're so pathetic that they keep trying the same thing and thinking people are just going to stick to it. Well, there's a reason you have a 23% approval rating in Congress.
Yeah. And this right here just is indicative of what the Democrats are doing. They're staying on message. Breaking news, Kevin McCarthy has just lost the 13th, in all big caps, vote to be the Speaker of the House. Fam, out of 118, only four Congresses have taken longer than 13 rounds of voting to select the Speaker. The Republicans are not ready to do what's right for the American people, to pick a leader to go on doing the business of government. They're bad. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, dude, I want to see how long this can get. Keep opposing. I wanted to see if there's going to be some more cracks in McCarthy's armor. Now, from what I heard, 4 of the 10 dissenters on the last 2 votes have gone into McCarthy. So he's gaining ground. You know what I'm saying? He must have given something that those other 4s want. But I was hoping that we would see some kinks in the armor from McCarthy where we'd have more dissenters to the other side. Hasn't happened. Don't know if it will happen. More than likely, McCarthy will be the Speaker of the House. But I think this is a good thing that Matt Gaetz is doing right now. And like I said, I agree with him on the Ukraine. I don't think he's the peace candidate. I'm not going to go out and get a Matt Gaetz t-shirt. Not happening. But, this is a good thing, I think, all in all, not bending the knee to power, trying something different. And it is really, for me, it's mud in the face of the squad. However, hoping that people would wake up to this, I don't have a lot of hope myself, fam. I went over to Facebook. No. The people are still making the same excuses. Yeah. Well, they voted for Hakeem Jeffries because it was political, because they need to get appointees to different committees and blah, blah, blah. And, and they don't want to be destructionists and it's going to hurt the people. It's like all the bullshit excuses.
Because these people still think Democrats are better than Republicans.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what their mind, what they're operating on, right? They still say, oh, Republicans are fascist, Democrats are fine. Even though the Democrats are the ones that are pushing this war on you with Russia via Ukraine. And that's what's going on here. But I mean, at the end of the day, as people point out, I'm not saying go out and vote for Republicans. I'm saying go out and understand what's going on here, because at the end of the day, as soon as Republicans get in, get ready for China, get ready for Latin America. And by the way, if you're talking about immigration and you're not talking about our interventions in Latin America, you're going to get a whole lot of immigrants coming in here, much more than you've ever had, because that's the reality. If you want people to live in their country, stop intervening in them. It's as simple as that. Just let them live their lives. You don't like communism, or don't live there. It's that simple. Who cares? They're not like, people in China are going to choose the government they want to choose. Let them be. People in Cuba are choosing the government they want to choose. Let them be. This whole concept of intervening has gotten us where we are right now, which is not in a pretty position at all whatsoever, with the entire world pretty much saying, we don't need you anymore. We don't want you anymore. BRICS is growing. Brazil already joined CELAC, which after 2 years of leaving the CELAC with Bolsonaro, they joined it. They're trying to find a new currency in Latin America. They're trying to find an alternative to SWIFT between Russia and China. I mean, these are all facts that are happening. The United States dollar isn't going to sink tomorrow, but it's no longer going to be the unilateral place that we've seen. And it's going to take time. Like I said, right now, we still have the dollar and the euro and the pound at the top. But it's not the way it used to be. And so what Americans are going to have to do is really understand foreign policy, because right now there's just so much focus on domestic policy. And because I'm here, I've been focusing a lot more than usual. I know we focus on foreign policy, but more than usual on more foreign policy and how these alliances are happening with China. And it would be beneficial to everybody if we cooperated in a position like that. Just it's beneficial that way. It's in general, whether it's the government, whatever it is, the game, the mind game, the life game, whatever. I don't know if you've seen that experiment, but it's like, if you cooperate with people and if you trust your neighbor, you usually get a better relationship out of the whole situation than if you try to be at odds. So
well, they pump the fear into our citizens, and that's part of it. And by the way, fam, just piggybacking on what you said about this other countries being communist and socialist, Angela Picardo on the show on the panel last week, when we had a Marxist, a libertarian chair, and a MAGA person, literally said, we got to stop this being mad at these other countries for being communist. Being mad at another country for being communist is like being mad at your neighbor for being gay. It's none of your business. Shut the hell up. And that was the libertarian. That's why I like Angela Picardo and what she's doing over there. And not to mention that we force these countries into a collective mindset. They go into these collective governments because the empire is on their neck. The number one thing all these people want, we say it all the time, is
national sovereignty.
National sovereignty. They want the rights to their own resources, their own ways. And yet the government's still going down there. And we're going to have a little Trump clip that just frightened the bejesus out of me, fam, because Matt Gaetz is wrong on this one. You know, they want more shit. That's what he wants. He wants assurances for protections and security at the border. Any politician that's talking about the crisis at the border without talking about what's going on with our foreign policy has abandoned their post. Tulsi Gabbard included. Anybody who's talking about crisis at the border is just a distraction. What causes the migration? We know this. We talk this. This is everybody we've talked that to down there, including the citizens, including the right-wing citizens that don't even like the left-wing government there. They still say, oh, yeah, no matter what, we don't want the United States government involved. We want to make a choice in our own direction. And that's something we have to pay attention to, fam.
Agreed.
Let's get out of here and get into the next subject real quick, guys. Thank you so much. 41 people hanging out on Rockfin, 75 people hanging out on Rumble, over 700. You guys are cray-cray. I like this time slot here, fam. They're over 700 hanging out on YouTube, guys. Go over to Rumble, go over to Rockfin. The links are in the description. We need you to go over to those platforms too as well. Those are our free speech platform. Tomorrow, they can give us a strike if they want to on YouTube for whatever reason. They've done this in the past. I think it's our turn soon, right? They got Steve last week, Franco the week before. Usually they take turns going through our crew. So we might be up next, fam.
So it's January 6th.
Happy January 6th day, fam.
Yeah. And is everyone okay? Because, they almost had AOC killed. It's the anniversary of where they almost had AOC killed. I mean, I'm sure she's very traumatized. I have to make fun of her because she's just the epitome of what I despise in the Democratic Party. But 2 years anniversary of January 6th, right? We were there. We were there to talk to Trumpers about why they thought the election was not a valid election. We knew going into that the elections in the United States haven't been. haven't been valid for a long time, guys. They really haven't. Okay, we haven't had fair elections forever. Whether you're a progressive and you saw what happened to Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in 2020, or whether you saw the past 2020 elections, or whether you remember the Bush Gore election back in the 2000, and whatever the case may be, long lines, no chain of custody. We talk about this all the time. We knew going in that the elections were not fair. So we were going to go in and we were going to interview some Trump supporters as to why they thought the elections weren't fair, etc. Of course, we were vilified for being there, for going there, but we were also there because we had previously been at a Julian Assange event advocating for the freedom of Julian Assange, and also at the Forced Vote event, which we just got done talking to Jimmy about.
Yeah.
So 2 years after all of this has happened, and now they're still going on with this bullshit 2 years after the fact. This is like another Russiagate scenario, right? And I'm going to go ahead and read this tweet that I put out because I think it's important you all know, in case you don't know, January 6th was not an insurrection. January 6th was not a coup attempt. January 6th was not the death or the likely death of AOC. It was not this traumatic experience that they made it out to be. We lost a lot of friends over this, a lot of liberals or people that turned out to be shit libs, because we were there. We were like, this was not what you're making it out to be. And I said, happy it wasn't a coup, but an inside FBI PSYOP, because guess what? We later learned that's exactly what it was, to pass authoritarian crackdowns against any opposition to the empire, any opposition to what the US was doing, by using Trumpers as a scapegoat because they were the easy target to use in an increasingly disgruntled and distressing population that's finding out their government is the most corrupt on earth today. Because that's what really January 6th is about. Because as soon as they could, they went after not just Trumpers, they went after everybody. They went after vegans, they went after environmentalists, they went after the left, the right, independents, anybody that opposed the national security state. And what did the national security state apparatus do? It expanded. They got the FBI involved in this whole thing. Because guess what, guys? Where were all the cops? They weren't any cops. There were more cops surrounding us when we were at a protest with 40 people for Julian Assange than there were on January 6th in the Capitol. I'm telling you right now, it was absolutely ridiculous. We know from the hearings, of course, that this was all entirely orchestrated. We know that they knew that this was happening, that they wanted to rile people up against each other. We know that they exploited the disappointment and the understandable disappointment, by the way, from Trump supporters who felt cheated because they were. So, I mean, and we know that whole sentiment was exploited to be used against the right in order to use it against everybody else, because it's not about, again, as we say, left or right. It's about the people at the bottom versus the people at the top. And then after that, of course, we had the Department of Homeland Security monitoring people's tweets. We had the Department of Homeland Security monitoring your social media. We had them monitoring your cell phones. I mean, this is what they say, right? 2 years later, the New York Times, prosecutions of January 6th rioters continue to grow. The Justice Department's investigation of the Capitol attack, already the largest it has ever conducted, has resulted in 900 arrests with the potential for scores or hundreds of more to come. And if you scroll up down a bit, I want to show you what they're doing here. It says, in chasing leads and making arrests, federal agents have already seized hundreds of cell phones, questioned thousands of witnesses, and followed up on tens of thousands of tips in an exhaustive process that has resulted so far in more than 900 arrests from Maine to California. But it's incomplete. Hundreds of more people could face charges in the year or years to come. This is where our taxpayer dollars are going. The Capitol siege investigation, as the government likes to call it, has been, among other things, a highly publicized and sophisticated effort to bring to justice extremist groups like the Proud Boys, who are also infiltrated by the FBI, and the Oath Keepers militia. Both played central roles in attacking the Capitol and disrupting a pillar of American democracy on January 6th. Pasta, does the United States have a pillar of democracy when it comes to their elections? I mean, just, from your expertise of looking at elections in the global South and looking at our elections back home, especially in California, the most democratic state in the entire country, of course.
No, and I mean, and obviously, this is the capital, right? And this is our capital, right? It's supposed to be our place. If we got grievances with the government, this is where we're supposed to go. The fact that that is being really fucking, thrusted in our face, and the only way that you can now make change, they're telling you, is going to the voters' box. But that was the problem in the first place, is that they didn't agree with the voter system. So it's like it's a quagmire of a situation they've put us in. I don't think people realize how dangerous it is, the fact that they're doing this to the capital, because once again, this was the people's capital. This is where we're supposed to go. And yet, we understand what that building really represents. It represents death and destruction. But at the end of the day, I mean, people have to wake up to this. And it's a shame that people on the left can't see the nuance in this situation. And you hit it on the nose perfectly, fam. This wasn't just about going after the right wing or Trumpers and whatnot. It was a vessel to go after us all, and it would always use things as cloak or hidden devices to do so, right? And this is something that Edward Snowden told us a long time ago. Hey, they're using their spy powers. They say they're going to be looking at China and Russia, where they're looking at you, the citizens, 5 times more than they're looking at China and Russia. So once again, history repeats itself because we don't learn. And it really is a shame that a lot of us are still divided, especially on this situation. Mom, come say hello. You're here. You can't come say hi. You look nice, Mom. Come here. Give me a kiss.
Hi, Joan.
Wow.
Hi, fam. You look good. You look
Your
good.
hair, right?
Thank
fam?
you, Joan.
Yes.
Hey, we're talking about January 6th and how it was just a BS, how it wasn't a coup, how
I
it
know.
wasn't an insurrection. What do you have to say about that, Joan?
Well, I believe that it was instigated by the CIA and the FBI. I do not trust those organizations. And when you don't trust your own government, it leaves you scratching your head and just wondering what else is going on that the American people are totally in the dark about. But again, that's my opinion. I just wish that you guys could reach out to an audience in my age category, a little older, because they have one mindset, because they haven't been told anything different. And they believe fake news, CBS, NBC. I don't have to go through it. They have written agendas, and we are just being eliminated slowly but surely. I guess they don't have enough food to feed us.
I guess not, Joan.
Well, go ahead.
Great
I love you.
analysis.
Good luck in Russia, fam. That was very brave of you to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really was.
I appreciate you.
And get on the horn with your friend Tucker and tell us to have us on so we can get to that different audience.
I'm gonna get in touch with him.
Tell your boy Tucker we want to talk about the Brazilian elections.
January 6th is the.
So yeah, right. We were there, right? I love you, Mama. What's this, organic coffee for your son?
Yes, organic.
I like that blouse. You look beautiful.
She's right. She's right. Everything she said is absolutely true, and she's right. See, she gets it. Now that's the thing. She gets it, and but if we say this, like if you go on a fascist book and you say that, oh my God, you right-wing crazy, blah, 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 blah. But fam, what I wanted to also say about January 6th was one of the reasons I think a lot of the left, or what they call themselves left, right? We don't consider them left, but the liberals were mad, is because they talked about doing that for so long. They literally said, oh, we're going to go and we're going to have a revolution and we're going to storm the government and we're going to create our own government and we're going to do this and that. And they didn't do it. Again, I have to go back to, why does the right keep showing up the left? I mean, they keep shaming the left. It should have been the left storming the Capitol saying our elections aren't fair when Bernie Sanders was cheated. It should have been the left doing that. Instead, but everybody just went, oh, well, we'll get them next time. No, you won't. You won't. And you did it. And so that's, I think, another reason why internally they were so mad at the Trumpers, because they were like, oh, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
They did it. And I think that's also part of it. But they're still going to continue investigating this, fam. They said they're going to take years to do this, and that all these trials that have happened, by the way, they're still trying to tie it to Donald Trump. They're still trying to say that somehow Trump was involved, that Trump incited. Trump wasn't even in the area. He was literally still marching. He was literally still saying, hey, we're going to walk down What was it? Well, was it the
We're going to walk down to our Capitol building and protest, but we're going to
they
do
were
it
somewhere else.
peacefully because
Yeah.
we're the party of law and order. And that's the Ellipse, 40-minute hike.
The ellipse. Yes.
40-minute hike to the Capitol. We jumped in our car and
Yeah.
we drove. We were listening to Trump's speech as we were walking to our car. And we got to our car, and it was like a 7-minute trip over, maybe 6-minute trip over. I think Tim Canova said he jogged it over from the Ellipse, and it took him 28 minutes, and he jogged the whole time, and he can do that. Yeah, I mean, Tracy Beans, what up, Todd Jones? Love you out there. Tracy Beans was while they were saying, "Oh my God, people are into the Capitol right now. They're in the Capitol." Tracy Beans said, "We're not even there yet. We're not even there. So what the hell is going on? You know?"
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this investigation, by the way, is completely just trampling over people's First Amendment rights.
Oh yeah,
It's trampling over people's right, search and seizure. I believe that's the Fourth Amendment. It's trampling on people's all of people's rights, especially the First and Fourth Amendments, right? And so nobody, like, I feel like people still don't get what that means. It means that when the Twitter files revealed that social media like Twitter have been working with the government to censor people, to take people down, to, you know, push certain tweets and shadow ban certain tweets, when all of that's being admitted to, guys, it should be a much bigger deal, as Jimmy said, but it's not, because the government already literally told you that they were going to do that. In fact, they have legalized it. They have made it so we have state media basically calling itself corporate media. It's technically a private company, but that private company is in bed with the government. So it's technically not an independent company like they try to phrase it. So at the end of the day, what we have is a fascistic, oligarchic entity operating as the government, and it's not even Congress, it's not even the president, it's not even it's not even the judicial branch, it's the national security state. And so this is why January 6th really grinds my gears, because they're spending 2 years trying to make it a thing, trying to blame it on Donald Trump, trying to blame it on the, you know, the white supremacist problem that we have in the United States. And I'm not saying that racism isn't real or that it doesn't exist, because we do see it in the United States. But what I am saying, it is quite hypocritical to talk about white supremacy in the way they talk about white supremacy, while giving billions of dollars to the Azov battalion, to neo-Nazis in Ukraine, while funding the extreme fundamentalists in the Middle East who are literally killing people, while funding just the most extremist groups all over the world that are killing people. And then saying that you have a white supremacy problem in the United States. What you have a corruption problem more than anything. You have a problem of a government that is no longer by and for the people, and that's the problem you have.
We're going to get to this next subject real quick because this is a great one, fam. I was waiting to share this with our WhatsApp group, our anti-imperialist chat and stuff, because I wanted the actual footage cut out and shared, and because, you know, that's the thing, right? There are some things that are good. We have mentioned that some of the Republicans, Matt Gaetz, didn't want to go to war with Ukraine or wants to end it, wants to stop sending money. But then you got to be careful, because where do they go? Where when they agree with us on some stuff, the stuff we disagree and that we think are really bad, what's going to come out of that, right? You know, so it's like they'll tell the truth, the simple truth. Like Bannon is all over Steve Bannon right now. He's all over the COVID narrative. He's bringing on the doctors. He's talking the truth. He's doing this, and you agree with him. But then they hope that you play team sports, and then you also agree with him as he wants to go to war with China. And I've said this before, Matt Gaetz and his whole thing, he wants an investigation on China. These things are very scary. When I hear him talk about let's ban TikTok because he wants to get rid of China, it makes me nervous. But the area I am most nervous about, and we've been saying this, fam, and this is why we do what we do. When we go down, we observe these elections. We can go, no, the election in Nicaragua was fair. The people want Daniel Ortega. When he says Yankee go home, he means Yankee go home. Don't butt in their business. The people, even the ones who don't agree with Ortega, still don't want you there. National sovereignty is national sovereignty. And I've been saying this, that once they are done and they've completely exhausted themselves in Ukraine, when they've completely exhausted themselves in Syria, in that region, they're going to turn right back to Latin America. And here we go. Matthew Turman, the dude who's been talking this stuff over in Brazil. Oh, this is communist, Lula this, and, you know, just divisive and splitting the people, pushing a color revolution down there, manufacturing consent for the future for us to go in because they are dirty communists and they want to control the world with the help of China. Well, Donald Trump, when he got into play, and there's a lot of people in the global South that don't like Donald Trump. They hate him even more than Joe Biden and Barack Obama because he tried to do certain things. He put Bolton into power back in, Elliot Abrams. He tried to whack Maduro, you know what I'm saying? And now we got this coming up. What's that?
Soleimani,
he got Soleimani, right? So he even got Soleimani. But now this came up, fam, and it's kind of, I don't know if you remember when I told you that I was at the election integrity hearing in West Palm Beach, and right before we were going to go up with the solutions panel, they brought up an ex-ICE employee who is someone high up who says he's been trying to push to the Trump administration, and now he's going to try to push to this administration and future administrations to classify the cartel as an enemy combatant. Therefore, if they're an enemy combatant, the military can get involved. And I went to him as he was coming off the stage and I was going on the stage, and I immediately said, "Excuse me, sir, but how much of the drug cartels is controlled by the CIA? How much is the CIA involved in the drug trafficking? What about Iran-Contra scandal?" Well, blah, 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 blah. We've said this before, fam. If the CIA wasn't involved, how strong would the cartels be? They might even cease to exist. They would be tiny. Yeah. The drug trade is being run by the American government. Plain and simple. It has been for quite some time. Pedro Castillo talked about this when he was campaigning. The DEA is down there with the CIA, and we need to get rid of them because people are dying. Yeah. So take a look at this Trump video. For me, fam, this is just red light, red light, red light. We got a lot of fucking work to do. Excuse me for cursing, but this is just scary. Here is Donald J. Trump the other day talking about the cartels, almost verbatim what came out of this dude's mouth that I saw in West Palm Beach 3 months ago. Take a look and take a listen.
Our country is being poisoned from within by the drugs and by all of the other crime that's taking place. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels. We will show no mercy on the cartels. Every day, drug traffickers are using the waters of our region to ship their lethal poisons to America, killing so many of our people and ruining families. In addition to restoring strong border security, I will deploy all necessary military assets, including the U.S. Navy, to impose the full naval embargo on the cartels. We will guarantee that the waters of the Western Hemisphere are not used to traffic illicit drugs to our country. Furthermore, I will order the Department of Defense to make appropriate use of special forces, cyber warfare, and other overt and covert actions to inflict maximum damage on cartel leadership, infrastructure, and operations. I will designate the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We will sever their access to global financial systems. I will also work to forge an unprecedented partnership with neighboring governments in our region. Either we will get the full cooperation of other governments to stop this menace, or we will expose every bribe, every kickback, every payoff, and every bit of corruption that is allowing the cartels to preserve their brutal reign, and it is indeed brutal. Finally, as I have said before, I will ask Congress to pass legislation ensuring that drug smugglers and human traffickers receive the death penalty. The drug cartels and their allies in the Biden administration have the blood of countless millions on their hands. Millions and millions of families and people are being destroyed. When I'm back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. We did it once, and we did it better than anybody else. There's never been a better border than we had just 2 years ago. It was strong, it was powerful, and it was respected all over the world. And now we're laughed at all over the world. And we're not going to let that happen much longer. We have to take over. We have to be tough. We have to be smart. We have to be fair. But if we don't do something immediately, our country is gone.
Okay, so first of all, before I give it off to you, a couple things here. Donald Trump is just playing to his base. This is going to sound good to his base. Donald Trump is going to oppose whatever the Biden administration is supposedly pushing. So according to the right, the Biden administration has open borders, which is false because there's been a lot of deportations, if not more, under the Biden administration. They definitely don't have an open borders policy. They've definitely been interventionists. They definitely haven't been friendly. However, they often portray themselves, Democrats, as friends to immigrants. And so that's why you have this back and forth of Republicans sending migrants to Kamala Harris's house and vice versa. And you have this whole back and forth thing going on the immigration issue, because it is an issue in terms of, it's an issue in Europe. It's an issue everywhere in the world. However, if you're not talking about the immigration issue under the context of interventionism, then you're not really talking about the immigration issue at all, as we just said. And so when he's talking about the drug cartels, it sounds good if you're somebody that's like, let's say you have a relative, right? And I'm going to ask you, Pasta, because you and Shanda have done this show on the, just the to hell and back, where you talk about drugs and how they have affected people. Right. But so we're talking about the drug issues that have riddled the American people, particularly the opioid industry. So a lot of the drugs actually that are affecting Americans are actually pharmaceuticals, by the way, more than anything else. But OK, let's say heroin is getting in there. Let's say, there's a lot of cocaine coming in. That all began, of course, as Pasta mentioned, with the CIA at the helm. So when Trump is saying, he's going to take out these cartels and blah, 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 is he really saying he's going to take out the cartels, or is he really just giving, these red meat points to his base where he's saying we're going to become more of apprehensive pro-police state. We're going to give the death penalty to these idiots. We're going to go in on them. So to me, it seems like he is going to his base because he has to compete with Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis is Trump on steroids. He is like, if you take Trump and put in like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and what's the other guy from, was it Kentucky or Tennessee? No, I think it's Tennessee.
Mitch McConnell is I know who you're talking about. Tom Cotton.
Tom Cotton. You take all of those, you get a DeSantis. DeSantis is just going to be super interventionist,
especially in Latin America.
So
yeah.
And he's new, and he's the new shiny new toy, right? Especially because he gets a lot of credit for his COVID policies in Florida. We're from Florida originally, so we know how that state works and how many people really supported Ron DeSantis because of the whole COVID situation, which, by the way, Florida wouldn't have survived if they closed and shut everything down. They're a state that survives on tourism. So it would have been a suicide mission for anybody to shut down Florida. And now, in terms of Ron DeSantis' foreign policy, he's absolutely going to be terrible. He would absolutely be terrible. So I think Trump has to compete with Ron DeSantis. So I think that's why you're seeing more of this rhetoric, fam.
I don't know if it's just to compete. I really think this is kind of a part of the mission, whether who gets in, whether it be DeSantis or Trump, is to go concentrate one down in the global south. But let's start with the first question, because there's so much to unpack in this thing over here, fam. Who's to blame for the drug problem in America? Well, I'm going to say it. It is definitely the drug companies. And this is something that me and Shanda have talked about. 8 out of 10 times, I believe it was, I can't remember, at one point, the first time that a person took an opioid, it was prescribed from their doctor. And then eventually when they were hooked, they cut them off. They give Adderall to the kids out here, like they're handing out like candy. The majority of the problems of the drugs that are coming up from Latin America, which they're saying is fentanyl, right? And there's so much tied to this whole situation. Well, first off, who's to blame for the drug problem before we get to the fentanyl situation? It is the doctors. It is the FDA. It is Big Pharma. It is the government for allowing it to happen. You know what I'm saying? That is where the drug problem comes from. So if you really want to take care of the situation with fentanyl, the first thing you'll do is curtail the whole industry. And you get rid of these things and start realizing that you can't allow these doctors to hand out these drugs like Pez candy. Secondly, it is now fentanyl that's coming up here, fam. This is how deep this goes. We were talking about on the morning show. This is like a Walter White situation. This is like Breaking Bad. The rumor is that the Chinese have outsourced all the fentanyl making to the cartels, and the cartels are bringing it up. And that's why he says, I'm going to designate all the major cartels. Like, he's pinpointing who it is. It's like a walk. It's like Breaking fucking Bad over here, and it goes even back to the fact that we were talking about the opium wars. The opium wars weren't a fight over opium, to who gets all the opium. The fight was over China and their emperor not wanting opium in their country and fighting with the Brits to stop them from doing so. And that's why we saw the annexation of a lot of these islands, why Hong Kong became Hong Kong. So it's almost like they can sell this. Look again, the bad Chinese communist fam. They outsourced the fentanyl to the cartels. The cartels are now bringing it up. They want revenge for the opium wars. They're trying to crush us within our society. And that's why you see this Matt Gaetz whole situation with the security at the border. And here comes Donald Trump right in there again to start following up on this. And this is just going to manufacture consent for more intervention, fam, right? This isn't really about getting rid of the cartels. The cartels, if you wanted to do that, just take care of it with the CIA and the DEA. We've known this for how long? They've made movies about this. Air America with Robert Downey Jr. and Mel Gibson, guys that work for the CIA as drug runners and selling drugs all up in Indochina and Laos and Cambodia. They've been doing this for so long, they've never stopped. In fact, Kasachwa News about 4 months ago had this whole clip where they're down, and I think it was in Costa Rica or in Panama, and they were handing over the government to the DEA tons and tons and tons of cocaine. And the DEA is like, we'll take care of it. We'll get rid of it. We're going to take this drug and get incinerated. In fact, we think it was sent over to Ukraine for Zelensky so he can keep up with his coke habit. But, I mean, this is what's going on. And it's just fake. And the thing that really caught my mind, that really made my you-know-what burn, was the fact he says, we're going to work with our local governments, and if they don't abide, we're going to do everything we can to expose them. Well, first they're going to go into Mexico, guns a-blazing. And when they start doing shit over there, and who knows if AMLO will be in power or if it'll be somebody else, somebody cooperative, they're going to say we need to go further. And they're going to start going further down into the global south and into the North Triangle. We need to go further. We need to go into the heart of Central America to Guatemala to take out the drug cartels. And after that, we'll go to Honduras. I might even grab a pupusa when we liberate that country. But that's what they're doing. They are manufacturing consent for more intervention in Latin America. Our boy Matthew Turman, the one in Brazil who got everything wrong. I understand why the dude was watching our channels, because he wanted to sound like he knew what he was talking about, since he started off with this whole discussion about the ballots when there's no ballots in Brazil. He had this anti-communist push. Well, you know whose inauguration he went to, fam? DeSantis. He was in DeSantis' inauguration. This is a concerted effort. This is a consolidated effort, different groups, to make sure that they're going to manufacture consent to go into the global south because of the drug problem and communism.
Yeah, the drug problem is the excuse to go into the global south. Because again, guys, you want to get rid of the drug problem? Abolish the CIA.
Yeah.
Disempower the DEA. I mean, they're the biggest drug cartels in the entire world. It's as simple as that. This is a fact. We're not lying. This is a fact. You can look it up. As Pasta said, there's been movies made. This is all a fact. Now, the second thing you want to do, if you really want to get rid of the immigration problem and the crime problem in south of the border, you stop interfering in people's governments. Hey, how about we cooperate with the people in Central America and South America? How about, hey, they have lithium. How about we don't try to steal it all? How about we just trade some lithium for this and that? Venezuela literally came out the other day, Maduro, right? He said, hey, I'm ready to work with the United States. We're ready to work. We've always been open to having a cooperative relationship with the United States. We've never not been open to that. Russia has been open to that forever. They've been wanting to work with the West for the longest time. In fact, they still do. And contrary to what some of their supporters want, because they don't buy that the West is ever going to be cooperative without actually trying to do something to get out of it. All of these countries that the West vilifies, they've been trying to work with the United States. They've been trying to work with Europe. So, I mean, this isn't hard. This isn't like a difficult situation here. These agencies are the ones that are pushing the drug war. Why? Well, because the drug war is a multi-billion-dollar, I would say maybe trillion-dollar industry, because it's not only just the drugs and the payment for these drugs and the trafficking. We're talking about the prison industrial complex tied into that. We're talking about the money made from prisons. We're talking about the slave labor that nobody ever talks about of these prisoners. We're talking about, of course, big pharma embedded in that. So when you're done with, when it's all said and done, it's like trillions and trillions of dollars in this whole drug cartel. So do you really think the United States is even if Trump actually wanted to get rid of the cartels and was actually going to go after the CIA, which he's not, they would let him? Like, this is, look what happened to Kennedy, right? When he said, I want to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces,
Yeah.
shot in the head. And now, of course, what happened after that? Years and years of being told it was conspiracy theory have revealed, of course, that the FBI and these covert agencies were involved in the death of John F. Kennedy. So this isn't made up, right? And so when Pasta talks about this just being manufacturing consent for intervention, he's absolutely right, because why would they want to intervene in Latin America? Well, what's going on in Peru? Guys, it's the lithium, it's the copper, it's the
Cobalt,
it's the fourth
nickel.
industrial revolution. Okay, because that's where we're going with this here. It's not just about, oh, these are great resources. This is a fourth industrial revolution. This is the next phase, and these minerals all happen to be in Africa. They happen to be in South America, some of them in Central America, and of course, in what ways they have to manufacture consent? Well, they have to tell you these people are a bunch of drug addicts. They have to bring in China and say China is working with them. What's China doing? Yes, China's working with them because they're open to working with China, because China isn't trying to coup them every 5 seconds. It's as simple as that. Like, oh, China, you guys want to have a relationship where you take some, I take some? Fine. You don't have to like China. You could even say China is, doing this or that, whatever the case may be. But if these governments want to work with China, it's none of your business if they want to work with China. That doesn't mean they have an altar to Xi Jinping and that they're praying to Mao every 5 seconds. And even if that were the case, it's none of your business. But at the end of the day, the reason they're cooperating with China is an economic reason. This whole thing isn't even an ideological situation here. This is all about economics. It's an economics for Russia. It's economics for China. It should be economics for the United States, but the United States always has to put in, it is economics, but they also have to put in their ideology in it and be like, no, communism. And it's like, okay, well then.
Yep, it's all about economics, about the resources, fam. And I think a lot of people answering that question, who controls the drug trade in Latin America, I think they know it's the CIA. And I'm disgusted that they're going for this. I mean, these are two big things. I was talking to Terry Madsen yesterday. Guys, if you haven't gone to our YouTube page, go ahead and take a look what the F is going on in Latin America. Episode yesterday about Haiti and what's going on over there. So please check it out. If you want to know what the F is going on over there, this is a show you want to watch. It's on Thursdays on the Convo Couch YouTube. So please check it out. But, not losing my complete chance, something about talking to Terry about, we were talking about the cartels, and we were talking about this whole situation. And she kind of agrees. You know what I'm saying? She's even saying, like, no, for quite some time, they've been down there messing around. So it is what it is. I think we all know that the cartels are not really the ones in control. It's the United States government and the CIA. We've proved this for quite some time, and I don't think there's anything different about that.
Even the show Ozark kind of dives into that, if you haven't seen it. You want me to read Roger Meadows?
Roger Meadows left a Super Ray contribution.
I made this suggestion too. Kit, since Rockfin is a worker co-op, I say promote Rock slightly more than the others that are corporate owned, seeing that we are for the workers. Rock would be the ultimate in expressing our working class values. Why not you and the rest of indie media get together, go to Rock and suggest Rock app be included in cell carrier bundle package plans? This will help proliferate Rock vids, seamlessly surpassing YouTube. But Rockfin also needs to like work out its kinks too, which is why some people don't use it, because sometimes it doesn't always work. But we use it because it's our free speech platform completely. I mean, they don't ever censor for the most part. The problem is that they don't allow just anybody to create content. which is I think is a downside to that. I think if you're going to be a free speech platform, you should allow everybody, whether or not they have a following. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to apply to them and then see if that sort of thing. So Rumble in that sense is, I think, a stronger up and coming sector, but they do sort of like, censor in terms of what they deem as left or whatever from the right. So I don't think there's a perfect platform right now in the age that we're in. So that's
Yeah.
why I say diversify your exposure to all of these platforms, because we're in the age we're in, we're increasingly fascistic, especially in the United States. It's hard to get the information out there. So Telegram is also, you can stream to Telegram. So we might want to explore that, fam, because you can stream to Telegram. So
Yeah. Special thanks today to Lucky Burrito and Jilly Love for holding it down as our moderators. And guess what, fam? It is Fred Edwards' birthday.
happy birthday, Fred. Are you going to do anything fun?
I don't know where he's hanging
I
out.
hope you do.
There's 100 people plus hanging out on Rumble, and that's awesome. We got 101 there right now. We've been really doing some great numbers over there. The Dr. McCullough video, fam, almost has 3,000 views on Rumble, so that's kind of cool. We are getting some play over there. I believe we have.
If you guys
almost
haven't seen
100
it, watch
followers.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Dr. McCullough and Pasta talk about the collapsing athletes
Yeah.
syndrome. And if you look at, I forget who posted it. I think it was what's her name on Twitter, who always posts really good shit. Anyway, she posted this, all the mainstream media headlines on that, and we're obviously on YouTube, so I can't go into it, but just how they're all like, no, this isn't related to the vaccine.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here, folks. Move along, move along, move along. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah. And Dr. McCullough said on my show, he said, unless it's proven elsewise, it is. That's his opinion. That's him, not mine. We heard that it's safe and effective. So anyways, guys, thank you so much. It is Friday. We'll see you back on Monday. Fam, anything going on over the weekend? Anything you want to talk about, promote? It is Happy January 6th Day.
Well, so let me just go over some of the headlines for today that happened on RT real quick. Let me just tell you. So Ukraine and the West rejected Russia's attempt at a truce. They said, "Oh, how about we stop bombing anybody? We hold a truce." That's happened before throughout war. And Ukraine immediately just went and bombed Donetsk. And Eva Bartlett is currently, doing some reporting as well. And also, the chief editor of Sputnik Lithuania was detained. They literally detained a journalist for apparently violating EU sanctions because he's a journalist and works for Sputnik, which is absolutely insane, by the way. That sets a very dangerous precedent, as if they haven't already been set with Julian Assange. But I mean, you're arresting a Sputnik editor for working for Sputnik because you don't like Russia. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And according to statistics, thousands are going to die from lack of heating in the UK. So these are the things that are happening right now. Also, a lot of civilian deaths in Somalia, fam, due to U.S. troops involvement and striking and intervention in Somalia. We talked about Somalia a couple months back, but that's back in play right now, foreign policy wise. The United States involvement is leading to the death of civilians, hundreds of civilians, mainly, of course, women and children. And that's not being talked about anywhere, except, of course, in certain media like RT is covering it. RT is focused a lot on Africa now. They have an Africa sector. They have an India sector. So, So that's what's going on the main world headlines.
Yeah. You guys had an awesome video the other day on, I didn't get to watch all of it, but I want to watch it again, on Puerto Rico. And
yes.
Yeah, so that's good. And you also had the bear, the dude becoming
the bear. He was so cute.
Yeah, like
the bear.
For Cocaine Bear, we have a
Mansour is his name.
Yes, Mansour the bear. He was cute. He somehow was stranded on a plane runway, and he just hung out over there, and he can't go to any type of adaptation to go into the woods or the forest anyway, because he's too friendly and loving with people. So they have to, keep care of him and take care of him over there. But wow, Mansour is so cute. He's so amazing. Check it out, guys. That's Mansour the Bear. Check out Fee on RT. I was on Sputnik the other day with Dr. Wilmer and Garland Nixon, Critical Hour. We talked about what was going on in the GOP. As we speak, there is still no speaker. Let's see what happens. I say eventually they're going to get to McCarthy and he will be the speaker. But there are some positives, a few negatives, on what necessarily what McCarthy, what Gates wants. But yeah, it is what it is. And I think it's pretty good. So it's really, really cool. Love you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys back on Monday. I hope you had a great new year. And that's it for now, fam. We should probably put up soon our fundraiser for Cuba. That is the next stop. We got to get it going. We're starting to reach out and talk to Cuba and see what's going on to see if we can get there. There's a lot of stuff to report on, guys. Like we had Danny Shaw on yesterday. If you haven't seen that, the socialism is different in different countries, right? Or the governments are different in different countries. People don't realize that in Venezuela, there's still a bourgeois class that's there, that's still in parts of Caracas, that still has a lot to say of what goes on. As in Cuba, they were all thrown out, the ruling class.
Yeah.
So those mansions that those people owned and stuff were given to the workers, and they turned into libraries and all these other things, historic places. So I really want to get on over there and check out Cuba next. So we'll probably put something up to get that ball rolling and get on the ground. It's important that we do these things. I mean, the whole Brazil situation, fam. I mean, this was unprecedented. From the time that Lula won that election to the time he was inaugurated, almost 3 weeks, almost a month, they had, they pushed this kind of like backdoor soft coup color revolution that they weren't able to accomplish. Eventually, Bolsonaro got on a plane and went to the States, but he didn't necessarily concede. They pushed these lies and propaganda, made it about being, communist and Marxist. So it was really crazy what went on there. And I'm glad we had the goods to explain what went on systematically in the system as far as voting in Brazil. So we got to do the same in Cuba, because they're going to always say that their elections are pantomime, their elections are fake, and they're going to use their elections as a way of manufacturing consent to going into Cuba. That's one of the countries that's on the list. Biden said it today. He goes, immigrants coming from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti, don't do it unless you do this and this and that. Well, he's already trying to say, like, things are in disarray in Cuba. Things are in disarray in Nicaragua. Things are definitely in disarray in Haiti. But he's trying to kind of plant a seed, right? That's the other end. You got Trump saying, we're going to get rid of the cartels. And yet, Biden's talking about fentanyl. He's talking about that stuff coming in. And he's talking about, people coming from Cuba and Nicaragua. So they're already planting these seeds on both sides of the aisle for intervention.
Right. Because they don't it's the State Department that's running the show here. So that's the reality. And as we had it with Danny Shaw, just the last thing I want to say before we head out, because I do have to be up early tomorrow. The problem with right now that countries like Cuba, countries like Iran, countries like Russia have to watch out for is the youth. The youth does not know and understand the gravity of the West and who they really are and what the empire does. And the Democrats, the U.S. Democrats, are doing what they do to the youth in the United States, right? With liberalism and all of this identity politics stuff. That's what the West is doing to the world, the youth of the world. They're trying to get them involved in that, to turn them against their own governments. And it's actually a really dangerous thing, what I'm seeing right now when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Cuba, when it comes to a lot of these countries that don't really have the youth reach. Nicaragua has done a great job, but it's one of the only places that I've seen do. So something to watch. Latin America is going to be on the radar, definitely, in the next coming years.
So the Convo Couch has a lot of work to do. We want to thank all of you out there for a great new year, great last 2022. I know a lot of you guys thought it was shit. Hopefully we can have a good year in 2023, but we can't thank you enough for supporting us and keeping it going and put us on the ground in these very important places. Fam, like I said too, as well, other outlets got to do a good job of explaining what's going on. I think that we are perfect for that because we don't play team sports. We might have ideological differences with, certain people, and some things ideologically we're the same on, but we always think independently, and we try to give you open and honest opinions about what we see, regardless of what the Democrats, the Republicans, or any other group is saying. So that's it for today's show. We'll see you back on Monday. Check out Fam on Rumble, and that's it. We love you all. Fam, What do you say to the people when it's time to leave?
Fam, stop. Come out, guys.